4 diseases. What have I discovered about them? That, how does it work? How do I know that these 4 diseases come from the same cause? Now, I hope this will be very fascinating, but it is complex. I'll just mention cancer. You've probably known that I've been focused on cancer for already over a decade, and that usually at these conferences, I bring you the most up-to-date information that I have on it. And my most up-to-date information is that we can now consider cancer as a straightforward disease. What was that little signal? Okay. That has never been said before. So I'm going to say it again. We can now treat cancer as a straightforward disease like any other disease where you know what to do, and if you do it, it is gone. I mean cured. I don't mean treated. I don't mean just treated. And that only came about starting about 2 years ago, and I didn't want to talk about it because it was too exciting. We would all want to believe that, but I wanted to be very sure. Now with 1 to 2 years of the following experiences, I think that you would agree that cancer is now a tame disease. In other words, you know what to do, but whether you will do it is still another thing. I haven't been able to make it all easy or simple. I've only found the cause and removed the cause in enough cases to where I see that it's infallible. There has not been a single failure if the unfortunate patient had been able to carry it out. And that is to remove the radioactivity from the water and the tooth fillings. It's a tall order, but we have made that quite a bit easier. We at least have a protocol for the dentist in these 2 years. And we do have a perfectly easy to apply method of switching your water. So by taking the radioactivity out of your life, you can't take it all out. Everything has some radioactivity. In fact, we've got radon coming up from the earth, of course, and some of that radon is making polonium even. But I have never seen a cancer case that came from the radon source. It has to come from the water source. You can't even start cancer from the dental source. Even though you've got polonium in your tooth fillings, that doesn't give you your primary cancer. Your primary cancer always comes from the water source. I don't know why that is. Maybe there's something that has eluded me, and that's why I keep on working, because suddenly it will pop out. That polonium may have a first cousin, and they have to be together to start primary cancer. That's just a speculation. The, of course, solution is to stop drinking and using that water. And for the first, say, 10 years, when I already knew that our cancers came from the water, what we did was change that person's water. They either had to move or they had to do something that proved to me that the radioactivity was out of it. And so that's how we made our initial cures. this shocking part is that it did bring a cure. That's often not expected. You don't think of a cure. You think that you've got some relief for a while. But to my surprise, when the body loses its radioactivity, it recovers completely. So that if you have the water already changed, you can walk into a dentist who knows how to take out your radioactivity. And so far, there aren't many of those. And walk out of the dentist's office without cancer. You don't test it for 12 to 24 hours, and that's all it takes to lose the cancer. So let's say that you had 6 cancers, and say a primary and 5 metastases or something like that. And they were bleeding and painful, and of course disturbing your health. You could walk out of the dentist's office without any of them, except that it would take about 12 to 24 hours to know it. You know it when the pain is gone. So that's our easiest way to assess it. I have this syncrometer so I can test to see if the polonium is gone. Because what's really gone is what I call the cancer complex. And I do want you to know that much of this research revolves around the cancer complex. I was also looking for a single cause. We all think there's a single cause for a disease. But in the case of our new diseases and this old disease, cancer, it is not one thing. It is a complex, which means several things, and they're combined in a particular way. They're combined in such a way that they can attach to your DNA. Now that's what gives you a syndrome. You see, diseases that are based on mutations, which this would indicate, are supposed to be random. Mutations are random events. That's what you're taught from day one in any class. So we couldn't even imagine that there would be a situation where a person would be getting a set of mutations, the same set, from cell to cell where the disease is, and from person to person. And when you're a clever researcher, I notice that different people are getting the same symptoms. You can call it a syndrome. Now, a syndrome doesn't make any sense at all unless you know the mechanism. And the mechanism is this cancer complex, which has about 10 ingredients, and they all land on your DNA in a particular way. They would have to, because it's so complex, it's the only way they would fit. They have to fit and affect the genes that are being controlled by the DNA. And if they are arranged so that the polonium is sitting right here, the cerium right here, the cyanide, the ferrocyanide right here, and they're all oriented in the same way to strike a particular gene, then you're going to get particular symptoms. And that is why you would call it a syndrome. You're getting a set of similar symptoms. And at the end of this cancer complex, which is situated, and the other complexes also for the other diseases I mentioned. They're also disease complexes, and they work the same way as the cancer complex. It's attached to your DNA, and at the other end of this complex is a parasite. The parasite gives it the living energy, which the chromosome, which the DNA needs to turn on the mutation mechanism, the multiplication mechanism. And so the importance of the parasites is that you can't have the disease without the disease complex being on your DNA, and it has to have its particular parasite. And that's how our diseases are increasing. We have to do something about it, and maybe reading the book will give you some of the other answers. And we do have the new book at the booth 203. Thank you for listening and being interested. I appreciate your being here and giving me the support that many others don't get.